Saints fans and who-dats from all over the world. It's time for the Bayou Blitz. With your host, Bob Rose.
Happy Wednesday, New Orleans Saints fans, fans of the Bayou Blitz, and fans of the NFL everywhere. And folks, we are back. It is only 2 days before the official start of New Orleans Saints training camp, when they put the pads on and things start to get real. Football is in the air. Summer weather is here currently, so life cannot possibly get any better than this, except for one more thing, that we have a treat for our listeners tonight. First of all, in this corner, my name is Bob Rose, and I am one of the co-hosts for the Bayou Blitz, and we want to thank you for having us over your airways and into your homes again this Wednesday night. Opposing me on the other corner, lacing up his gloves as we speak, is my opponent in tonight's debate, and a good friend of mine, except for tonight, Mr. Kyle T. Mosley. How are you tonight, Kyle?
Yo, I'm ready, man. I'm ready to go. Look, I'm the old man in the crew. I'm Pacquiao. You're Thurman. I'm knocking you out, baby. I'm ready to go. Well, how things going, man?
I would love to call myself the young dog in this fight, Kyle, but you only got a few years on me. We'll call me a late bloomer, and we'll see how much I have left in the tank too.
Yeah, definitely, man. Look, I tell you this much: a lot of battles are going to be had coming up in this Saints training camp, man. I tell you, it's going to be a tight one.
Yeah, it really is, and you know this. The talk lately around the Saints have been centered around the defensive line and the potential lack of depth. Now, we're going to talk about the starters, specifically the defensive end positions, in a little bit. But earlier today, it was announced that the New Orleans Saints signed veteran defensive tackle Ziggy Hood. Now, Ziggy... hold on. I have my numbers right in front of me. I apologize. Ziggy's about 6'3", 305. 32 years old, started his career with the Steelers in 2009, which is where he had his best success by far for 5 seasons, but has played for 4 teams in the last 5 years. What do you think about that signing, Kyle?
It's just an insurance policy. That's how I look at it, man. And you look at what he's done in his tenure, 9 seasons, you said. He's bounced around from a couple of teams. He's like the past couple of years, he's only played in, 14, 15 games, So I don't see it as one of these type of signings where it's going to possibly be a long-term type of deal. It's, if he does well, if he comes in, he helps out. If those young guys like Stallworth and Amniata are not able to perform at their peak level, which I think they will do pretty well. Plus, we have Malcolm Brown. So, we have talent. It's never, and guys, you've got to really keep thinking about this. It's never, ever a bad problem to have depth going into a training camp, or even having depth, period, on your squad. So this is a veteran guy, comes in, he's a big body guy, he's going to help the team. He's going to help push people, right? You've got to have that in training camp. If you want to compete at the highest level, have those type of guys on board.
Yeah, you know what? I couldn't agree with you more. And I got a close look at Ziggy the first few years of his career. As most of you listeners know, I do currently live in Pittsburgh, PA, so try not to hold that against me. But Ziggy was a first-round draft choice, 32nd overall after the Pittsburgh drafted him coming off of their Super Bowl championship year of 2008. And for a big man, especially early in his career, he was pretty nimble on his feet. Now, the Steelers play kind of that modified 3-4. They are at their best defensively when they have four athletic linebackers and they just can kind of turn those guys loose. So the defensive ends in the Steelers system, especially in those years, were bigger guys, kind of what you would expect out of your three-technique defensive tackle. So Ziggy, the major knock on him was that he had a lot of problems controlling his weight. And it seemed like in training camp every year, he was that guy that was getting fined X amount of dollars for every day he was overweight. But he always came ready to play, certainly in Pittsburgh. And like you said, he's kind of bounced around. He's had, some nicks and bruises, some minor injury difficulties the last few years. But Saints fans that were kind of downgrading this signing this today, or disrespecting it a little bit, like you pointed out, Kyle, we're not asking him to come in and be a starter, or even play a high percentage of the snaps if he makes the team. It is an a veteran insurance policy, from a guy who comes from a solid football background, numerous teams, but especially the Steelers. They're one of those teams that are up near the top of the heap almost every year. And if you look throughout their free agent signings, New Orleans free agent signings in the last several seasons, they seem to focus on those kind of guys. The Patriot guys, the Steelers got perennial playoff contenders, guys who have been there and performed on the biggest stage in the biggest moments. So Ziggy has some ball left in him. He might be able to team up, and like you said, we do expect the majority of the snaps and production to come out of David Onyemata, and thankfully he only has that one game suspension.
Right.
Malcolm Brown, a defensive tackle who I think everybody is excited about, and we're all pretty excited to see what Taylor Stallworth has to give. So the veteran Hood will combine with the veteran Sylvester Williams, who comes from a championship Denver Bronco defense, with those undrafted defensive tackles that you and I both like. Corbin Kaufusi, Shai Tuttle, and Kenny Bigelow are all three intriguing for different reasons.
Right.
So the depth interior is something that we could be excited about. And John Payton and the rest of those Saints coaches in front office, they're going to have their eyes on other teams throughout this preseason. And when cuts are made, this is going to be far from the final move or final veteran signing that we're going to see. But I don't mind it at all.
Look, a team, even after training camp, is always in flux. It's always an ebb and flow to the team. Injuries happen. You bring in personnel, you try them out, you play here or there. So we have to realize the most important thing is being able to have guys who can come in, understand the system. If they don't understand the system, Sean Payton is not leery to get rid of them. He's very eager to get rid of them as fast as possible, right? So you have to have camp bodies in order to practice and practice hard and watch out to see if someone can make the team, someone can't make the team, or someone can be able to help support themselves to make another squad. So everybody is looking at everyone else's camp. The player personnel guys are talking to the other player personnel guys, and GMs talking to GMs. So it's always going to be a plug, play, up, down, who is in, who is out.
Yeah, exactly. And again, you look at these guys, all the free agent signings, that the Saints have made within the last few years, even outside. Let's look outside the defensive line, because we mentioned Hood with the Steelers, Williams with the Broncos, but Kayvon Webster also came from the Broncos. Rashard Matthews played with a couple playoff teams in Tennessee. Malcolm Brown played for the Patriots, and I don't think we need to tell any of our listeners, what that team does on a franchise does on a year in, year out basis. The Saints are very focused on where these guys are coming from. They're not just throwing money around like we kind of saw out of them earlier in the decade when the team got themselves in a little bit of salary cap problems, made some poor free agent investments. They're going for these second and third tier guys that are going to provide good quality depth, or at least they hope they will, and that is the plan. Because you and I talk about this every single week, it seems, Kyle. The Saints have one of the best rosters, one of the deepest rosters in the NFL. So we're not talking about this team going out and having to sign a Pro Bowl starting caliber player at every single position. And the reason that is because they already have them. You look at this roster, and in nearly every position, pretty much every position, they have at least one Pro Bowl caliber player and another player that that you're kind of waiting to take that next step that has shown flashes of being a star. So when you have that kind of luxury, you can fill in those nicks and cracks. You can concentrate on depth. You can concentrate on athleticism on your special teams. And that's where we've seen the difference between the Saints teams of 2014 and 15 and the latter part of 16 and certainly 2017 and 2018.
Well, and also, Bob, you have to really consider the fact that, let's say the Saints don't have the most talented roster. I heard a lot of people say that's teams like the Browns or someone like that. Rosters with talent is great. If they don't fit and work together, it means absolutely zero, right? And I like what I see in this team. So you have young guys like Von Bell, Marcus Williams, Lattimore, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, 3 to 4 year vets now, right? And usually around that third to fourth year is when a young player's true light bulb starts going off. You have a superstar like Alvin Kamara, which went off his rookie year, right? But and Michael Thomas as well. I can't dispel the contributions of him. But right now, if you have those guys who are now becoming your core players, and you have Azzaloni as well, you have guys who are going to make contributions to this team, not only on the football field, but off the football field as well, because now these guys are considered veterans. People know of their contributions and their talents and what they can be able to do for the team. They also are more confident in what they can do for the team as well. So that is something that is one of the intangibles that you won't find on the stat sheets or the player roster charts and things to that nature. It's in between the gray areas that's going to really say, what do we have in these guys? What's in their fiber? What's in their makeup? And I think we've been on the verge. Now it's either forget the verge. We want it. And if they do want it, you're going to see that early from this team. And they're going to be challenged early on from that Monday night game all the way through the first several games of the season. So let's see what these guys do. I just want them to stay healthy, man. If we have a healthy team, we have a better fighting chance. And we need to have the team not only healthy, but those guys have to be able to be well conditioned, because this is going to be a tough season in 2019.
Yeah, and like you said, the NFL schedule makers did this team no favors. We know everybody starts out with a clean slate and a 0-0 record to start the regular season. And we also know that there are always at least a few sub-500 teams from the year before to make a playoff or perhaps even a Super Bowl run. By contrast, there's always a couple teams from the playoff teams from the year before that kind of fall off a little bit. But you can't predict those things. The only thing you can do is take a look at your schedule. And from the Saints players and coaches' perspective, obviously they take it one game at a time. That's just not a mantra or a cliche. They really do. You can only play the guy that's next standing in front of you. But human nature is human nature, and they do look ahead. They look at, who are we playing in this week, and what kind of position are we going to be in not only for playoff positioning later in the year, but to even get yourself into position in the first place. And we, people like you and I look at the schedule, and oh my God, they open up with, Houston Texans, a playoff contender, or a playoff team from a year ago, in a season opener where the Saints under Sean Payton never do well, by the way. Week 2, they turn around and face the Los Angeles Rams. I don't think a single Saints fan has to tell anybody else what that means to this team and to this fan base. They have the Cowboys early on in the season. They still play, in my opinion, one of, if not the most competitive division in football. You have the Seahawks early in the season. The Seahawks were a playoff team a year ago. And we could go on and on. The time for breaking down the game-by-game schedule, we'll do that on this show as we get closer to the regular season. But yeah, take a look at the schedule, like you pointed out, Kyle. Especially the first 6 games of the season. On paper, judging from last year's results, it's a real meat grinder.
Meat grinder, sidewinder, I don't care. You got to find a way to be able to win these games. And it's every year. I don't know what it is about a Sean Payton team. The first 4 games usually dictate how well this team is going to perform the rest of the season, right? Mm-hmm. So if the team comes out 3-1 or 2-2 or even 4-0, I feel a lot better than being at a deficit, right? We cannot go into losing one of those first 2 games. That's a no-no. They have to win the home opener. And I believe they really can beat that team in Los Angeles. So that's not a problem there as well. The team that the Saints really need to be aware of is going to be those Cowboys, and it's going to be Tampa Bay as well. And they really have to pay attention to those guys. And, one thing I can say about what's going to happen in this coming season, man, is that when you have a veteran like Drew Brees guiding you, we always have a fighting chance, right? And a lot of people don't really understand how important it is to have that type of leadership on the field. I remember when Drew first got to New Orleans, man, and everybody was roasting him, and now everyone is praising him. People were saying, oh, he's going to be garbage and all this other stuff. No, it was a blessing that doctor or doctors in the Miami Dolphins camp told Saban to go a different way. Thank you very much, Nick Saban. I think that's the best you have ever done in your coaching career to be able to give us a chance to be able to have Drew Brees. But all in all, man, the first 4 games are going to be important. How these guys handle and tackle adversity early on. That's going to be an adverse environment in L.A., right? I think we might have more Saints fans to show up than people really know. But to go on the road, to face those guys early on in the season, knowing what happened in the Dome, feeling robbed, oh, man, they're going to be pumped and primed, especially if they win that first game. So it's going to be interesting, Bob.
Yeah, for sure. And look, this offseason has been terribly long. It hasn't been as uneventful for the New Orleans Saints as what many of us thought it might be going in. They made some moves in the draft. They brought in some players that a lot of us are really excited about. We can't mention this enough. They were smart and very focused in their free agent signings. So it's not like they just sat on their hands and twiddled their thumbs, while the rest of the league got better. Sean Payton and company really had their eyes focused on what they wanted to do with this roster. And on paper, it looks like that they made all the right moves. Players like Jared Cook at the tight end position, which was probably the Saints' weakest position last year. Making moves like Malcolm Brown at defensive tackle, which many of us think is going to be huge in many ways for this defense. And waiting for the further maturity of the Michael Thomases, the Alvin Kamara's, Ryan Ramczyks, et cetera, et cetera. We can go down the line. We all know the names, but these guys are getting better year by year by year. They're just now entering their prime, folks. And like you pointed out a minute ago, Kyle, health is the most important thing. We know that these guys have the skill level that put a few of them among the best at their position in the NFL. So proving it is not going to necessarily be the problem. They've been doing that. Staying healthy and continuing to get better and focused on where you want to be at the end of the season. That's where this team is right now. But they're not looking at the end. They're looking at the beginning. And I think the 2018 season, or coming into the 2018 season, rather, after the way the Vikings playoff loss ended the year before, they realized that what they need to do was exactly what they did last year right up until the end, is take care of each opponent week by week by week and focus on them, because that's gonna mean that you have put yourself into a prime playoff position instead of sitting there at late November, early December saying, well, if we win this game and this team loses this game, then we'll get this. No, you win the ones that are in front of you. And these guys, this team, for as young as they are, and don't forget that, they have now put themselves in a very experienced position because they have been knocking hard at the door 2 years in a row. There's only one more step for them to take, folks. But they also, most importantly, they know what they need to do to get there because they've already done it, and that you cannot discount that factor at all.
Right. Texans, Rams, Seahawks, Cowgirls, Buccaneers, Jaguars, Bears, Cardinals, Falcons, Buccaneers, Panthers, Falcons, 49ers, Colts, Titans, Panthers. Tell me, where can you let up? in this season, there's no let up here. I mean, you can juggle the Jaguars to say you may have a little let up here and there, but this season is going to be a highly competitive and intense season for the New Orleans Saints, because you have teams that are rising and ready, and they're chomping at the bit trying to get to the NFC Championship game as well. The Seahawks, Bears, they will play off. Cardinals, they got to prove themselves if Cliff Kingsbury was the right man or not. Kyler Murray, is he really a number one, or is he a son of a gun? So it just, you don't know what's going to happen, and we got to face those dirty birds twice in 3 weeks again. So it's just one of those things where we cannot let up. And when you look at some of the games coming down the pipe, especially look at those last 4 games, the 49ers and Colts, you just don't know where those two teams are going to be in this season, right? The Colts, they are playing against the Texans as the leaders of the AFC South, right? Texans have won the division the past couple of years, but the Colts, man, a lot of people are picking them as pretty much the favorites this season to win that division. So we do not have any games that we can really take a breath and take a breathe and say, it's okay, we can breathe. It's not going to be that difficult. And I like it this way because challenged every week, you're not going to be taking things lightly when it comes to the playoffs, right? You're not going to take – and some of these games are going to be some learning games for this team as well. How well they answer the call. It's going to be very critical. And speaking of answering the call, you ready for your beatdown, man? Come on.
I say bring it on. My trainer has me getting a good sweat.
Come on.
Working on my footwork. I'm ready to go.
All right. All right, guys. Bob and I are going to have a little fun tonight. We're going to have our own Bayou battle, and we're just going to talk a little bit about a couple of some subtractions and some key internal conflicts within the team. But you want to start it off, my friend?
Yeah, we could certainly start it off. Let's talk about the quarterback position, because that's the position that every NFL team wants to talk about. They are the highlight of the league, et cetera, et cetera. Every single person walking the face of the planet knows what the Saints have in Drew Brees. Every single person that even follows the Saints a tiny bit also would like to know what the Saints are going to do life after Brees. And it's something that people like Kyle and I have debated in our own circles for forever and a day. Now, look, hey, none of us want to find out. None of us want Mr. Brees to hang him up ever. And we all have our opinions on when that might be. But many people think that the Saints trade for Teddy Bridgewater last season set them up and basically brought into the fold, especially when Teddy re-signed a one-year contract this offseason. Many people started to think, hey, this is going to be the next quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. So as we ring the bell on round one of Kyle Mosley versus Bob Rose, my question and opening salvo to you, sir, is Teddy Bridgewater the next quarterback of the New Orleans Saints?
Heck no. No. Teddy Bridgewater, my friends, I love him. I love the kid. I love his moxie. I love how he's come back and he's shown to be a good teammate. He's healthy again, and he's going to be healthier watching Drew Brees this next season, because right now all Teddy is going to be is another headphone warmer for Drew Brees, another tablet holder for Drew Brees. The true guy that we know that is more of an heir apparent for Drew Brees is King of the Hill. None other than Mr. Taysom Hill. He brings the thrills. He brings the spills. He knows how to run the rock. He knows how to throw the pill. So Taysom Hill is the guy that we want to be able to have in the black and gold. And, it just reminds me of what Big Red was saying to the 5 Heartbeats. What don't you do, Taysom? So, look, let's be honest. Ted Bridgewater for the New Orleans Saints, guys, he's just a $7 million insurance policy. That's it. 1 year, one and done. He's a good kid. I want to see him succeed in this league, because before that injury, he was primed to be able to be one of the most elite quarterbacks of the National Football League. But he knew better than anybody else he needed one more year to be here in New Orleans to learn from Sean Payton and Drew Brees and possibly win that elusive Super Bowl ring. That's all I have to say. Teddy Bridgewater, love you, my friend, but Taysom Hill is the way to go.
Well, I'm kind of staggered from that combination after our opening bell. But, Kyle, I'm going to tell you that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the next quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, and here's why. In your argument, you said yourself that he was primed to become an elite NFL quarterback prior to his knee injury. Now, I don't know if I'd use the word elite, but I do think that he was primed to be a very, very good starting quarterback. Listen, he was drafted number one with the 32nd pick overall by the Vikings in 2014. He had about a 500 record as a starter. I think he was 6-6 that rookie year. But remember, folks, he's a playoff quarterback. He has playoff starting experience. In 2015, he started every game, and the Vikings finished 11-5. And look back on that 15 Vikings roster, folks. It wasn't exactly littered with offensive talent. Yeah, they had Adrian Peterson, but they didn't have a whole lot else. Now, we're not talking about Bridgewater being the next Dan Marino or John Elway or even Drew Brees here. He's not going to be a 5,000-yard per season kind of guy. But the Saints and Sean Payton brought him in for two reasons. Number one, like you said, it's to be a insurance policy just in case a nightmare scenario happens to our starter, Mr. Number 9. And Teddy does have a 17-12 record as a starter. Okay, that's kind of pedestrian. About a 64% completion percentage, averaging about 216 yards per game in the games that he does play. Some things that concern me are he has an over-the-top delivery, which kind of delays his release and has a bit of a hard time driving the ball down the field. But he has good, adequate arm strength to make the passes that he needs to. I love his composure in the pocket and pressure situations. He has a good pocket set up and progresses through his reads pretty patiently. And this is the most important factor, he has the belief in his head coach, Sean Payton. Teddy was re-signed to this one-year contract this offseason, despite having allegedly a starting opportunity looking at him in the face in Miami. Teddy's gonna get to have a second year in this offensive system, which, let's take the quarterback out of the equation. The Saints have one of the more talented offenses in the NFL. One of, if not the best offensive line. Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, now Jared Cook.
Man, stick with Teddy Bridgewater. Forget them. Stick with Teddy Bridgewater.
Hey, man, I'm telling you what's around him. He doesn't have to be Drew Brees to be a star quarterback. He just has to not screw this thing up. And he has the belief in his head coach, Sean Payton. And therefore, I believe that Teddy Bridgewater could very well be the next starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints.
All right. Well, that was weak. But I'll tell you this much. Teddy Bridgewater, and I've got to be honest, I love him. I like the kid. And I tell you, I think he has a great opportunity to be able to come in and contribute. But what concerned me was that Panthers game. I'm not going to lie. Mm-hmm. I was right there in the building. I saw it for myself, wearing that glove on his hand like Michael Jackson. You know, I'm telling you, the thing is with Teddy, I just hope that was just 3 quarters of nervousness and jitters. That fourth quarter, he kind of turned it on and did a lot better. But, you know, we'll see this preseason when he has a lot more opportunities in game action opportunities to be able to impress that coaching staff. So, Bob, let's go on to the next round. We're going to talk a little bit about, do you want to do Davenport and Cam Jordan, or do you want to do Ingram versus Murray?
You know what? Everybody's been talking about Marcus Davenport leaving my poor boy Cam, kind of by the wayside. Now Cam's not crying. He just he has all those pennies from that big contract he just signed.
You crying for him right now? You whining? You being an apologist for him right now? Come on, let's go.
Let's go. Listen, do you want me to start?
Go on.
Okay. I realize everybody is excited about last year's number 1 draft choice, Davenport, and there's a lot to be excited about. But Cam Jordan is Cam Jordan. He is one of the best defensive players at any position in the NFL. The Saints did sign him to that big deal to keep him in the fold through, I believe, 2022, maybe 2023. He has 71.5 sacks through his 8 seasons. And most of that, especially his first 6 seasons, he did that with literally no help around him. He's getting double-teamed and triple-teamed, and he is still producing, unlike the rest of the Saints defense from 2012 through 2016. He's an Iron Man. Cam has missed 1 game out of 128, and that's not counting the 8 playoff games he played in. And he comes to play every single day. What we always talk about, Drew Brees, what Brees means to the Saints offense, Cam means every bit of as much to this Saints defense. He's a leader to the young guys. He's an example on and off the field on what to do. And every defensive coordinator stays up at night trying to figure out how and who they're going to block Cam Jordan with to keep him out of the backfield. He's not just a pass rusher. He can play the run as well as any edge rusher in the league. And we have seen him, even at 287 pounds, drop into coverage and stay with backs and tight ends out of the backfield from time to time. So, I mean, he's an athletic freak. And I know you're going to say that about Davenport, but I will take my boy Cam in any athletic contest any day of the week against anybody. He is a perennial all-pro, in my opinion, and deserves every bit of accolades that he doesn't get, and it'll be coming his way soon enough.
That was nice and sweet. Nice little tribute to Cam, as always. You guys are apologists for a guy who has more sacks missed than anybody else in the pro football history. You know, Cam at 72, wow. Cam should be well over 92 right now because he missed 20 off of Cam Newton himself. So, but look, man, I love Cam Jordan. Cam is the consummate professional. He's the leader of our defensive squad. He's an all-pro, and he's a 4-time Pro Bowler, and that's where it ends. He needs to have a friend, and no better friend than Mr. Marcus Davenport. Let's take you through his first year. The kid only played 13 games. Cam, when he was a rookie, he only played 15 games. The kid forced one fumble in his 13 games. Cam didn't force a single fumble in his first game. The kid had 4.5 sacks, and they took away a couple of sacks from him because of penalties. Cam Jordan only had 1 sack his first 15 games. The kid had 6 tackles for losses, Mr. Bob. And check this out. Cam only had 2 for 15 games. The kid had 2 passes defended. Cam, he had to up on him with 4 passes defended. Now, why in the world did you say all that, Mr. Mosley? I'm going to tell you guys the reason why. Because this kid has shown he has the potential to be a game changer. He's not only a game changer, he's an athletic freak more than Mr. Jordan would ever think about being. He's going to be a consistent force on that defensive line to be able to go A-B with Mr. Jordan. Now, teamwork. They win together, and they're going to win together for the next couple of years. But this kid has the potential to be the leader, and I think this season will show that he's going to be the most important cog on that defensive line as far as the New Orleans Saints need to have with their pass rush. All right. How you like that?
You know, I like it. You picked yourself up off the canvas because I gotta believe I knocked you down with my little with my little Cam tribute. That was a sweet comeback. I think you're back in the fight.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I tell you, man, I'm about to knock you out. Mama say knock you out right now. So let's go to round 3. Everybody is all crying up in tears. I saw Alvin Kamara this past weekend in tears saying, I miss Mark Ingram. Oh, my God. Give me a break. Mark Ingram, look, here's a quarter, baby. Put it in you. You played yourself. You played yourself because you could have had that same contract with the New Orleans Saints. You played yourself because you know they're going to ask you to run that rock all day and all night, not inside a dome, but in some really tough weather up there. Because you got a second-year guy that needs to have a running attack. So they're going to give it to you early. They're going to give it to you often. But, I got to give you this. You have come in. You did an awesome job as a professional for the New Orleans Saints. But now we have Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray is not going to pity-pat through the line. He's going to do one cut and gone. We're not going to have to worry about if it's good mark or angry mark all the time. We're going to have where Mark Ingram, who only played 2 full seasons out of 8 with the New Orleans Saints. We can't have that. We need some consistency. So it's better you on the East Coast with the Mr. Harbaugh and his little crew over there. Now we have a guy that's going to come in. He's quick, he's fast, he has good hands, and he has the speed that we need to complement Alvin Kamara. Murray, he didn't have a Drew Brees. He didn't have a Sean Payton. Now he does it. And also, I forgot, he has the Who Dat Nation. Go on. Let's hear what you have to say.
You know, I keep hearing all this about Latavius Murray has good hands and underrated hands, and he just didn't get an opportunity to show it. The only thing that I have seen out of Latavius Murray when I have seen him as far as pass catching ability is that he has the same number of hands as the rest of the guys out there. He hasn't shown me he hasn't shown me the ability to consistently do it in the pass game. And here's why I start there first. If you break down the numbers, Murray and Ingram are both the same age. Literally, they're a month apart. They'll both turn 30 this winter. Their running statistics are very similar when you break down each of their 3 or 4 best seasons. So, and I think Latavius Murray is going to do a fine job, folks. I really do. But Mark Ingram is going to be missed the most in the passing game. Now, I'm not going to compare Ingram to Marshall Faulk or Roger Craig or even our own Alvin Kamara, but he was a trusted check-down target for Mr. Brees, and that cannot be discounted. Brees knew where Ingram was going to be at all times, and I swear to God, it looked like sometimes Drew was throwing those check down and screens to Mark while he was being blindfolded, or in some cases blindsided. Ingram knew where he needed to be, and more importantly, once he got the ball, he knew how to use his blockers in the open field extremely well. So he was an intelligent runner in the open field with the ball too. And Mark, I've always admired this about Ingram. He was not a good receiver when he came into the National Football League. He worked very hard to get better. That was one of the reasons why he wasn't used a great deal in his first, say, 3 seasons. But he worked his way into an all-around back, an all-around solid number 1 back.
There you go, making excuses for him. Go on.
Oh no, that's not an excuse. I admire Ingram's work ethic. He did earn his spot into the Saints lineup, and he did wonderful things when he got it. I think the Saints are going to do great with Murray, but it's going to be a little bit of adjustment early on in the passing game, and therefore I think that's a little bit more onus and weight on Mr. Kamara's shoulders early on. Murray's going to be a better receiver late in the season, but early on you're going to see the Saints struggle a little bit without Mark Ingram. I'm going to give the check mark to Ingram in this case, at least the first half of the season.
All right. And Bob, sorry, you are out. I knocked you out, man. Mama say knock you out.
Judges, listeners, we need you to be the judges. You start telling us on Twitter and Facebook who you think won this debate.
Well, look.
I'm feeling pretty clean now.
Man, look, you got to go there, then you know you lost. That's all I'm saying. That was good, though, man.
That was fun.
Mark, I got to say this I was looking at Mark Ingram's numbers compared to Latavius Murray. Mark had the luxury of having a better offensive scheme around him the whole time. And I was looking at the quarterbacks. Murray, he did have Derek, and he did have that boy last year who had the big contract and didn't do anything. But he was very efficient still. You know, he had a good percentage. You look at the catch percentage rate for both Murray and Ingram. Get this. They both were at 79% for their career, man. Wow. Both of them. And Murray averaged 4.1 yards per carry. Mark Ingram, 4.5 yards per carry. Murray has less baggage on him. He did have a couple of injuries through his career. But, I just really think, all in all, we didn't go wrong with Murray, but I really believe Mark Ingram could have and should have still been a part of the black and gold if he and his agent played their cards a little bit more appropriately. That's all I'm saying.
And I agree with you. And listen, any fan of the Saints, you just got that tingle up your spine when Ingram was feeling it, and it was just so fun to watch. But Kyle, I do agree with you. I think Murray is a fine running back, and he will do fine in the pass game. Again, we're not talking about Ingram as being Roger Craig or Marshall Faulk or Alvin Kamara here. He was just a good and a trusted check down option. Sean Payton is as good as an offensive mind as there is in football. He's going to use Murray differently than he used Ingram, but I guarantee you Murray is going to be effective in the Saints offense. And that's one of the things I'm most excited to see as the season gets underway is how Murray looks in this offense.
I'm going to say this, guys, and I know I brought it up in our battle just now. That clip of Alvin Kamara, who wrote handwritten note, "I miss Mark Ingram." How do I say this? That could be key. Not going to be. I'm going to say it could be key early on in the season.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be something the Saints, as well as Mark Ingram, kind of took for granted. That relationship between the two of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Kamara, now, when you have a situation where you lose your best friend, I've been there. I lost my best friend. Professor was my best friend for most of my life, man. And when you lose your best friend, you can't talk to that person all the time, or your business as is for what you have to accomplish in your life. It's not the same for a while. You have to develop a new routine. You have to develop a new perspective, and I'm just going to have to look at how Kamara handles that. Is he mature enough to handle that? And to write that in a promo, I forgot what the promo was, but to write that in a promo, that concerned me. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it does a little bit. I don't think Kamara is going to come out and tank it or anything like that.
No, I don't think he's going to do that either.
Right. But I do think I'm interested to see what kind of emotional toll it may take early on. And listen, you and I are lucky to be friends with a number of former NFL players and former Saints. We've had a handful of them on this show. And they will all say nearly identical wording when it comes to how do you feel when you left the Saints, for example, is one of the questions that we often ask. And they bring up, and you can tell, and please, folks, listen to our past shows and see if you pick it up too. You can tell the inflection in their voice changes a little bit, even to this day, when they say the words, "Well, I learned that the NFL and football is a business."
Yeah.
And even to this day, it takes a toll on them. Whether they're leaving a franchise that they loved, or they have to say goodbye to people that they were close in the locker room, or whether they leave or those friends leave them, like the Kamara Ingram situation. This is really the first time that Kamara is seeing the business side of football. Because, he was a rookie in 2017, but there wasn't a lot of turnover on that team from 17 to 18. In fact, I think the starting offensive lineup came back completely intact, and most of the defensive side as well, with the exception of a couple additions. Ingram is the first big starter loss that we've seen on the Saints in the last few years. The kind of thing and that's why we do it on the show and on so many others. The kind of thing where you ask, well, what will be the impact of the loss of Ingram or replacing Ingram with Murray? It goes just so much more than X's and O's for these guys. As you pointed out, Kyle, like you said, they're friends. Ingram's been in that locker room since 2011. With a lot of, with a handful of those other guys. And, Kamara isn't the only one feeling the sting. Cam and Mark were close. They came in together. Mark and Drew were close. Mark was Drew's running back, so of course he's going to be close to him. But these guys, people like Breeze and Jordan and a handful of other veterans on that team, they've already seen and or experienced the business side of it, and this is the first time that Alvin really is. So I think it's not only Alvin's responsibility to, okay, buck up, young kid, it's time to get back to work. You've got a great guy in Latavius to lean on in the backfield for advice. He's a veteran. He's been there too. But that's also where Jordan and Breeze and the other veterans in that locker room are going to have to say, hey, Alvin, these things happen. It's not like unfortunately in your case, Kyle, or in my case, when we've lost such close friends, we've lost them in a different way. Alvin can still pick up the phone and talk to Mark, and that sting is going to wear off. But I'll be interested to see. Alvin was known as this fun-loving player, and the more fun he had, the better he played. Is that going to take a little bit of a toll? I don't think so long term, but it may early on.
Yeah, you never know. We'll see. You're a professional. It's time to go on, do what you got to do, man. One thing I do want to bring up, and we probably could go through a battle of this next week, is the cornerback situation and wide receiver situation and possibly tight end situation. Oh, man, there you go. There's our setup, man. I did ask last week of Irv Smith about Alizé Mack. And he didn't, and it struck me as odd that
I know where you're going.
He didn't know anything about him. How did you feel? What did you think about that, man?
Well, and Irv quickly explained why. His son.
No. Come on, Bob. He's a Notre Dame guy. Notre Dame guys know about Notre Dame guys, just like Alabama guys and LSU guys. They know about. They know so. I was like, wow. He knew nothing. Nothing.
It struck me too, and I did kind of chuckle to myself because if you follow Irv Smith's social media, and you and I both do, he's always tweeting and retweeting about Notre Dame, so he does still follow the program closely. And this is one of the reasons why Mac dropped to the 7th round of the draft. It has nothing to do with physical ability. He's got all the physical ability in the world. You turn on the tape and the man is impressive. But that's the problem. There's only limited tape because his work ethic every year he was in college. We're talking about Alizé Mack now. His work ethic every year in college was questioned by numerous people, even close to the Notre Dame program. And I think that those are valid, legitimate questions. And they're questions that, go ahead.
I guess, Bob, I'm looking at time, but I guess my question is more of this. Why doesn't Irv know about him being, that's his position, being the kid even played there a couple seasons, right? Or he knows about him and he's not too happy to talk about him, right? Or he probably did try to talk about him, or maybe he just didn't pay attention to him. Guys, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with the kid in the black and gold. I think he has a whole lot of potential, and we will see if those OTAs and rookie camps and everything else helped him to prepare himself to face what he's going to see in training camp. And, being a rookie is going to be a difficult assignment, trying to make that team. But he has an opportunity. That's all I'm saying. He has an opportunity. He has the athletic ability. And I know we say we have that in Jared Cook. Maybe he's a practice squad type of kid for us or whatever. all I'm saying is that struck me as very odd right there.
No, it did me too, and I was hearing the criticisms of him. As you know, when I was doing my pre-draft pieces for Canal Street Chronicles, I tried to keep my focus on day two, late day 2 and day 3 prospects. So I'd watch a lot of film, a lot more film on these type of guys than I normally would. And I came across Mac, and again, all the ability in the world. But I read the criticisms of him. I kind of questioned it myself and have wondered about it myself. But, hey, I look at it this way. You're now a rookie, 7th-round pick in the NFL. So your spot is far from insured. And you're going to be around workers like Cam Jordan, Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, et cetera, et cetera. If you don't really hike up that belt and go to work and play hard now, kid, you're never going to get it. So, I think we're going to see a lot of questions are going to be answered early on, and he has an opportunity to Cook is going to be the starting tight end. I don't think anybody questions that. Mac has the ability, the physical ability, and now the opportunity to earn snaps on still a thin spot. Josh Hill is probably going to be your number 2 guy, but he's more of a blocker. We know Josh Hill is extremely limited in the receiving game, so Mac is going to have his opportunities. Let's see what he does with them.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. Well, that's all I have, and we can talk a little bit more about what's happening in training camp after those guys get in, and watch out for the running back situation. We still need a number 3 behind Murray and Alvin Kamara. Washington is out there. The young kid from Nebraska is right there. You have Buck Allen is there as well. Yep. So it's going to be interesting, man, because Buck Allen, man, I know he gave us fits that game in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So, so it's kind of it's going to be, how do I say this? You're going to have to like the position battles this season more than any season in the past several years for the New Orleans Saints. And it's depth, it's kind of parity in talent, and parity in talent is one thing, but understanding the concepts and the guys who grasp the mental side and has that ability to separate themselves toward the end of camp is going to be the key. So we'll see how that plays out. All right, Bobo, any last thoughts, comments, criticisms?
Well, I'm enjoying my victory in our first Bayou battle.
Okay.
Seriously, fans, Kyle and I put a Facebook post up in Twitter. You might have to help me with the Twitter post. I don't know how to do polls on Twitter, but we'll put up a poll. We want to hear who you thought won the first battle of the Bayou between Mr. Mosley and myself. But it's been fun. We're going to bring on guests throughout the course of training camp. A couple more former players in the loop, and it's exciting for football to be back. I'm pumped.
Yeah, definitely. I am pumped as well, and I think when you look at what is in store for the 2019 season with our boys in black and gold, you've got to be excited. Bob, how can everybody follow you on the World Wide Web?
Well, first of all, I can be followed my personal page on Facebook, Bob Rose, and I am on Twitter as well, at BobbyR2613. And just recently hit 2,200 followers on there. So thank you all very, very much. I love you for your support and for your continued support. As far as my writings, until John Hendricks boosts me to the curb, because my production has been a little bit lower than normal, I can be followed on Canal Street Chronicles. Canal Street Chronicles can be found on Facebook by the same name, or on Twitter at Saints CSC, and there's a lot of, I might be the prettiest, but there's a lot of talented writers on there. So follow both Canal Street Chronicles and, of course, Saints News Network for all your latest Saints news and updates. This is a lot of fun working with all you guys. Tons of fun, actually. I'm having a blast. In addition, our Bayou Blitz Twitter page, we just started it this summer. We're not getting a lot of love yet, only a little over 100 followers. But please follow our Bayou Blitz Twitter page. It's at Bayou Blitz 412. And we're going to obviously be a lot more active now the training camp is here and through the regular season. And our Bayou Blitz Facebook page continues to flourish, though. We have, I think we're creeping up on 1,500 members now of the Bayou Blitz Facebook page, and you just go to Facebook and look up Bayou Blitz. If you have trouble finding it, get a hold of Mr. Kyle Mosley or myself, and we'll guide you there. It's a lot of fun to be part of that group, and I think we have so many active participants there, and they seem to have a lot of fun too. Everybody has a voice in there, and that's what's fun about it. I know some people get intimidated in other groups, and I can understand why, and no disrespect intended to anybody, but this Facebook page of ours is fairly new. So I think everybody is just kind of taking it as their own group, and you should. We're one big happy family, and we want to thank you guys for your love and support because of that.
Yeah, definitely. And he's going to need your love and support after tonight because he's feeling kind of blue. He won't tell you guys that, but Bob, I can hear it in your voice. I'm so sorry I had to destroy you. And, so take refuge with being pretty over there in Canal Street Chronicles and those boys. Maybe get some solace from Reverend Run over there. But anyway, guys, don't forget, you can follow the Saints News Network at www.saintsnewsnetwork.com, where Barry Hurstis writes all of our articles, and also you can follow us on the World Wide Web at Saints News and on Twitter, Instagram, as well as on Facebook. And also be in prayer for Barry Hurstis, and I'm just asking that because, Barry, he churns them out, burns them out, and he's a little bit burned out right now. But his health, just be with him and help support him. He likes to hear from the fans and people. That gives him a little pumps and edge here and there. So if you're on Twitter or Facebook, just send him some love. That's our good friend Barry Hurstis. All right, man. Bob's been fun. I hope you and the family have a great vacation. I will be up at the house relaxing and dining on the food that Lauren has left while you guys are on vacation. So thank you very much.
There ain't much, my friend.
But you guys have fun, man. And we'll be back on next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is Kyle T. Mosley of Saints News Network with Mr. Bob Rose of the Canal Street Chronicles and the Bayou Blitz. Bob, take care, be safe, have fun.
You too.
Who dat?